Hi guys, Garage RC here, back on another video. So today's video is about the DWX3. This is another rear-wheel drive drift chassis that I've managed to get hold of from Chan RC. Thank you Chan again for getting that through to me. Here you can see it's been set up with a 1/24th scale Nissan Skyline R34, which is a little bit dirty at the moment because I've been running it and having a blast with this chassis. So let's get the shell off. Now, first thing right off the bat, with this chassis there is no option for a mini Z body. There's no mini Z mounts. You have to use magnets to mount. The good thing is the chassis does lend itself quite easily to using these Raspberry Pi offsets I've done here, standoffs, and it's quite easy to set up a magnetic mounting system on the chassis. So currently the chassis is set to approximately I'd say probably 110 millimeters, something like that. Okay, let's do it that way. Yeah, about 110 I think it is. Okay, so this is a rear-wheel drive drift car. It has one unique feature that you'll see straight away. Not only has it got the shocks on all four wishbones, it's also got these shocks which act like kind of anti-roll bars as well, and it makes this car stand out from the rest. It's also got a rear mounted motor which you can flip the whole pod around and make it mid-mounted, but I've got it set up rear mounted here because it makes the car handle beautifully. It's got a geared setup, so it's got a normal gearbox which is functional. This car arrived ready to run pretty much, so I've not had to build it, so I can't comment on the build. It's got a fully adjustable chassis, as you can see here, and it is actually very easy to adjust as well, so I'll give it a thumbs up. It's very easy to adjust. The alloy bulkheads make the car pretty sturdy. We've got an upside down servo, which is a stock servo. It's not the modified one that we all use now. I always get the number wrong, AC11 I think it is. With an upside down servo horn, which is enlarged, as you can see there, which does all the steering. So it's a bit like the Drift Dart 2, the servo horn itself, but the setup is more like the HT1 that I reviewed last time. I've got a 6000 kV, I think, mini Q motor. This is a Geo Racing speed controller, brushless speed controller. We've got our standard V3 gyro that we use now on everything. NB4 receiver. These are 22mm wheels, in case anyone's asking. I am now selling these on the website. These are from God Racing, and these are new tires which are actually pretty cool, with a curve either side and a flat middle portion. I'll try and get that to camera so you can see it. Okay, so the initial setup of the car, so we're set at 110 millimeters long. Track width is about 76 at the back, 77. Track width at the front is about 73. So it's quite narrow really, because if you think about some of the other cars we're running, they have much wider track setups. Even the Mini Z R8 I think, and the Camaro and the AMG Mercedes all have a wider setup. So it's quite a narrow setup, but it's obviously quite long, with this being a 1/24th scale body. Sorry guys, completely forgot to mention, this body was painted by Colin from CS Designs. As you know, I've had quite a bit of work done by him, so check out a link to his Facebook page below. Absolutely brilliant. Okay guys, so moving on to the chassis itself. It also, like the HT1, has like an active rear toe, which I'll mention again. On the last video I got it backwards and I had to unclip the arms and reclip them because I was actually getting active toe out as the car was dropping down into corners. But a few of you guys corrected me, thank you very much. Even I can make mistakes. In part this was down to the poor instructions for the HT1. Anyway, moving on. So this has got active rear toe, as you can see there, and that's adjusted by this arm here. It's great having that feature to be able to adjust the toe in and out without having to rely on rear plates. We've got an active, we've got caster adjustment at the front. I don't know if you can see that there where my thumb is here. That enables undo the screws, and there's different screw holes so you can move the plate all the way along. So at the moment it's set as far forward as it can go, but it can go a lot further back. Looking at the car itself now, it's mainly carbon fiber chassis, and it's a pretty good setup. I mean, I think the design is pretty neat. The way you can extend and contract is similar to the HT1, and I think this is the way to go with all of these cars, having a fully adjustable chassis out of the box. It just makes life so much easier when you're choosing a shell, particularly in the instance of this one, because it's not Mini Z compatible out of the box. I'm sure you can make it Mini Z compatible, but at this point in time, it's just easier with these cars to go with the 1/24th scale and have those choice of shells that you don't normally get with Mini Zs. In terms of the suspension adjustability, there is no down stops to adjust the ride height. Again, another pet hate of mine. I prefer a down stop. It just makes it easier when you're trying to get the ride height correct. But there is a lot of adjustability, as you can see here on the shocks, particularly on the rear shock there. You can see I've unscrewed the shock washer there, and that actually makes the spring firm. If you do it far enough, it raises the ride height. So it's actually relatively easy to set the ride height using this setting here, and then you can do your shock settings separately to get the softness that you need. Okay guys, how does this car handle? It is actually really good. Out of the box, very good. It's got the power because it's geared. It's very stable and very easy to drift. And I think that might have something to do with the setup of these extra shocks. I can't say for sure, but it handles very, very well. And it surprised me because initially looking at this setup, it felt a bit stiff and a bit clunky. But once the car was weighted down with some electronics and the battery, it actually works pretty fluidly. I think what I'm seeing with a lot of these cars is it's the actual softness of these springs in terms of how easy the suspension moves that makes these cars so easy to tune and drift. The turning angle itself you can set so you can get pretty much full lock parallel Ackerman, really good both ways. It's nice, very easy. Pet hates with this car so far. Apart from the ride height, I can't say a lot that I don't like about this car. It's pretty good. So far I found it a joy to drift, and it's not been wanting in any way really. I mean, I think the only criticism I've maybe have is that these shock assemblies here do mean that Mini Z bodies are limited in which ones are going to fit because the shock assembly is going to hit. But I've overcome that just by using the 1/24 scale. It instantly just takes that out of the equation. So I think in terms of why I think this car is better than the other ones so far, I wouldn't say it's better. All these cars have their own characteristics and how they handle. This one was very easy to drift and use. So if you want to have a car that's, you know, easy to run out of the box, this ready to run version is amazing. A better servo is definitely a must though. This servo is not that good. So the stock servo I wouldn't bother with. I'd upgrade straight away. Anything else about this car that I think marks it out? Well, I think the weight bias towards the rear. Now previously I've not understood, or I've not been able to capitalize on this, but on this particular car, whatever they've done, having this motor hanging out the back really works well for this car. I really have felt I can get those longer, even very fast sideways drifts, and you'll see in the footage later on that I can completely control the weight distribution, the angle of the car because of the weight distribution. So overall, brilliant. I think there's a lot to be learned from this car. What's the quality like? Well, I know some of these parts are a bit flimsy, but if you look at the car itself, most of it is carbon fiber. The gearboxes are alloy, the bulkhead is alloy. So if that's the only parts that are the weak link, once they make those in alloy as well, I think DWX are onto a winner here. This is a good setup. How could it be improved? Well, you know, there's always certain things that you think, okay, well, you know, well, like I said it before, really, the down stops, that would help. These parts are a bit more fluent. That's it, really. I think the overall design is pretty good. So if you're not too bothered about having a Mini Z shell, this is a good car. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave you some footage of it drifting and see what you think.